Woo! What's going on, YouTube? It's Donnie B all day. It's time for Classroom with Donnie B all day. So I recently did a fun little short of the difference between a katana and a ninjato, right? And basically the difference in short math came down to one was straight and one was curved. One's used by samurai and one was used by the ninja, right? So, of course, right away, you're going to get, the people. You're going to get, oh, they're not that long, or, oh, they didn't, no, they blah, 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 they didn't use swords, and it's like, okay, so if you say so. But they're wrong. So, and I'm going to go over that. So I'm going to give you a better detailed description of, well, why the ninja carried these the way they did and how they're different than the katana and why. So a lot of people think that the Ninjato was short. And they say, oh, the Ninjato was never that long, so blah, blah, blah. And this is a wakizashi, so it would be straight if it was a Ninjato, but it wasn't short for the reasons they're thinking, and they came in different ways. This one is a bamboo scabbard straight Ninjato, right? It's a hidden sword. And then they came mostly like this, and the square guard, we're going to get into a little bit of this. Now, I had a bunch of information that I wanted to add, so I literally wrote down everything that I wanted to say, and I've never done that. So I actually have to read now, and I could write, but I can't read. So basically, let's just get into it. So basically, back in the 16th and 19th century, and I'm gonna have to keep going back to my notes because I did leave myself some notes. In feudal Japan, there were two kinds of swordsmen: the samurai and the ninja, right? The samurai were sworn to defend the emperor and the customs and traditions of Japan, where the ninja were basically hired assassins, right? That's what they did. They were mercenaries. The sword that they carried, ta-da, we just went over that, very similar to the sword that they carried. And here's one of the differences is in the carry itself, where you see the arc, it would be worn on the side vertically by the samurai and on the back horizontally by the ninja. That's how they carried them differently, and it's because the ninja had to cut in between places where the samurai weren't hiding and coming at you. They were just full out, we're going to battle, and I'm letting you know what's about to happen. So, let's see. Okay, sword can be carried different ways. I already mentioned that. You're welcome. So the katanas were generally longer, and they did have, and I showed you, they did have a shorter version. The wakizashi, my favorite Japanese sword of all time, is the waki. I would carry one of these over katana any day, but they had the waki. The reason the ninjato was generally shorter, and I'm going to show you, and this is where people get really confused. When I held this up, people said, nope, that's wrong. It was never that long, da 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 da. Hold on a second. I got to give you guys a better angle. Okay, so for me, this sword, this Ninjato, would be historically accurate. And people say, bullshit, it's too long. Okay, I'm going to show you something. There's my hip. The Ninjato, the ninja carried their swords the distance from the ground to their hip. So, no, I'm sorry, you were wrong. This sword is actually, for me, would be historically accurate. So if you see me pull out the Ninjato and you say it's too long, you're wrong. So, let's get that out of the way. So the Ninjato, or it was called the Ninjakin, or the Shinobi Gatana with a G, Shinobi Gatana, because the Shinobi warriors, basically ninjas, that's what they were called. They were generally short, so that's why it went from hip to floor. That's why they're short, because it was hip to floor, and they had a lot smaller legs than me. So if a guy was really, really short, you're talking like a guy who's 5'2" or whatever, it's going to look a lot like a walkie. So that's why they look like that, and people just don't get it. So there's a museum. It's called the Ninja Museum of Igaryu. And if you go there, you can see some really nice replicas of Ninjato, which is really cool. You have to go to Japan to go there, so plan your trip accordingly. Bring water. And let's see. Some people still question even if the swords are real. I wrote that down. Even though they have been chronicled through history. So they've been written about through history. That's how we know about them. In 1956, there was a booklet from Japan called Ninjitsu Haishichiro Ukase. It's a 26-page gem of literature, and it has the first photographed, or the very first photograph of a Ninjato ever taken is in that book. So there's that. Let's see. The blade itself was generally thick, heavy, and straight, mainly because the ninja had to forge their own blades. That's why they're believed to be straight, because when you are talking about grabbing a stone and sharpening a blade, it is a lot harder to do it on something like this than on something like this, where it's nice and straight. It's just easier. Not only was it thought because it was easier to sharpen, but it's believed that they were made this way also to pay homage to Fudo-Mayo-o, who was a Buddhist deity of ninja families, who was he was actually pictured and depicted carrying a straight blade. So they think a lot of that straight blade comes from, oh, this is our guy, so we're going to do that too. Now, the guards. I made a little thing where I put the guards with an exclamation mark. So the guards, you'll notice on a katana, you got this nice round guard. Some of the round guards on a katana were smaller than others, like this one on the waki, even though the guards are generally the same waki to katana, only the length is different. Some of them are just smaller, some of them are even a little bigger, but they're generally round. Or can you find a squared or even triangular guard, suba? Yes, you can. On Ninjato, they were generally squared. Now, it served as a couple purposes, where a lot of people believe they just took it off and used it as a Chinese star. No, it's not a shuriken. No matter how many people want to believe that, it is not a shuriken. So what would happen is you have this guy right here, okay? So when you were in a fight close up, you could use it as a weapon, hit somebody in the face. That's going to hurt. But that's not really why they had it. This is what was the main belief. So right here you have your sageo, your wrap. So what you would do is untie this, and you would leave it tethered, right, on your scabbard, right? So you would leave it tethered, and what you would do is, if you had to, let's say, climb a building, right, and you're jumping, I can't really reach it, I'm just a little too short. So what they would do is, because this is square, they would put it on the ground and lean this like this. So here's your wall. They would lean it on the wall, holding this, and then they would go boop and use a foot to propel themselves real fast off of their suba and get to their thing. And then while holding the untied sageo, they would then pull it up and continue to go. That was like the main reason they say that they made these square. So I know a lot of people think it was so they could take them off and throw them at somebody. Simply not true. So talking Ninjato, talking the length of Ninjato, the fact that they were generally heavier, not lighter. Katanas were very light. The reason people say Ninjato was lighter is because a lot of times they were smaller, and only because they were made for the height of the person, not because it was supposed to be a smaller tool. And a lot of people, oh, they're smaller so they can get it. No. They're smaller because they need to fit a certain parameter to the person. So if you had a 6'7" ninja, he's going to have a pretty freaking long sword, right? So that's it. That's it. One thing I can tell you is, no matter what it is, if you have your Ninjato, which is straight and it's pretty and this and that, or if you have your katana, which is curved and preferred by me, I would rather a katana than a Ninjato. So you're one thing is a guarantee: you're gonna have a pretty sweet piece, man. I just did another short about my zombie weapon for sure, and this is the sword that I pulled out. This is the weapon that I used. I would rather have the wakizashi as my zombie tool than anything else, because it's light, because it's super fast to get around. It has amazing recovery. It's got that armored tip. It's easy to thrust. You can literally, you see, and they'll take a knife and they'll go this way into a head of the zombie, and it's, if you ever hit a skull with a knife, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't go into the brain. You might even have to get some stitches. But this, I know I'd be able to thrust, or with a really nice sharp. And some people believe that they weren't sharpened because they thought because of battling they were only made for the tip. But I was just telling somebody that some Japanese katana makers would make them so sharp that they would take a single hair and slice it, and that's how they would decipher or decide if their blade was sharp enough. So that's it for that. But that's why I would keep a waki instead of anything else in the zombie apocalypse, because this can get through a head. Can get through a head, straight through, across, whatever, or it could just take one off. But it's going to be fast, short, mobile, able to get around. This would be my choice right here. That would be my choice. That'd be my choice. But as far as these two are concerned, you really can't go wrong with either. You can't go wrong with either. They're both awesome. They're both fun. And this is actually made for my height. Boom. So that's it for this one. I am Donnie B all day. Until next video.